building more. I'm going to be interviewing author Joel Roosa, author of All Worlds Awakening for Right. And it's a fantastic book. It's very, very interesting with magical realism and science fiction all mixed together. It's really great. So, Joel, uh, could you tell me, you introduce your main characters, Harry and Nia, early on. Can you give a little backstory to them? A little explain something?
Well, stuff pieces together during the course of the book, but the essential bit at the beginning, it looks like he's a hard-bitten film noir detective type, and she's a femme fatale, which is the images they try to project. And Harry himself is you guys should call him superhuman. There's a lot in there, but he is a knight of Valor, one of these people that the Valdurian family have that help them prevent, interdimensional incursions and things like that. And it's like kind of like stay in your own yard, but it's like, well, you can visit, but don't try to conquer other, realities and things like that. This is the sort of thing they deal with a lot. And Harry's been on his own for a while, and Nia's the Demi Knight of Valoran, who's just been sent to join him. And he tells her, I don't need a partner. I don't need to be explaining some noob, what has to be done, that kind of stuff. So they don't. It starts out like the typical film noir thing, with the detective asleep at his desk with his hat over his eyes, and the femme fatale in the trench coat and the hat and everything coming in, and except that she walks through the door. So right off the bat, it's like she's at the door, then she's inside, and it's like, so say what now?
Right.
Yeah,
it's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little. I figure, well, it's like I liked the I don't know why, I just liked the film noir setting to start. There isn't really anything else of that in the book, although Harry refers to film noir stuff. He's like an old detective movie buff, and he tries to talk. Well, actually, more like an old movie gangsta, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that's sort of his shtick, which gets lost occasionally throughout the book. He'll forget sometimes, and he'll be talking normally, or he'll overdo it. And Nia will go, aren't you kind of leaning heavy on the accent there, man? Or that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's his shtick. It's his he tries to make it his personality because he's afraid he doesn't have one.
Now tell me a little bit about Nia, though.
Well, Nia, she is the new kid on the block here, so to speak, but she's actually been around the block quite a lot throughout the years. And she is what you call your subtle type mostly. She's the one that hides in the shadows, gets information, and tells Harry what he should be doing. Harry may not actually be the brightest bulb in the box, which is funny because he has light powers. But and Nia is there to help him out, which is something he figures out later on. In all honesty, she's not there to be his assistant. She's there for the brain power. Harry's not stupid, but she's more used to thinking things through than he is. He's more used to punching things until they stop moving, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So
now,
that's them.
Could you explain what the Demi Knights are, and exactly what the Knights of Valoran are?
Okay.
So the Demi Knights and the Knights of Valoran. What are those things?
Okay. Well, we'll go with Knights of Valor first. I say the Valdurians hired them or engaged them to basically prevent interdimensional or extra dimensional.
Who are the Valdurians too?
Okay, there we go. The Valdurians family, or the Full Stars as they're called, their symbol is a gold star, 8-pointed star. The Knights get a gold 8-point star with a hole in the middle. So the Valdurians are Full Stars. And it's said that they often through the books, they essentially shouldn't probably say the Valdurian name because it tends to draw attention. And so they usually call them just Full Stars. But what they are a number of beings that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years, and they have any number of awesome abilities. I don't usually dwell on exactly what they can do in the book.
Right.
Well, let's just call them wizards of high ability, and which is not entirely true, but that's kind of what it amounts to. Most of them have magic to some degree and can perform all sorts of superhuman, supernatural feats. But
really,
they're so powerful that they don't allow themselves to interfere at will with other worlds. This is where the Valdirian Weird, W-Y-R-D, comes into play. Their fate, or the things they go by. They are supposed to deal with directly non-Valdirian matters indirectly. That's why they hire the knights. And the knights can be almost anyone from anywhere, but they're almost always beings of superhuman abilities.
Okay.
Well, it's easier. It's like it's easier to have someone superhuman go out and do the thing than somebody who has to catch a cab and doesn't have change, and I can that's their change. So, and the Demi knights are just either less powerful knights or new ones. Like Nia's a Demi knight because she's new, technically.
Right.
She just started. She doesn't even know what the heck's going on, really. It's just that she owes the Valdirians some favors, and they said, "You want to do this? We know you're competent." Basically, yeah, okay, sure. It's like it's a thing, and less and more savory than a lot of the stuff she used to do in her past. So,
right. Yeah. Now, exactly how old are they?
Well, that I don't exactly. They appear to be in their 20s, late 20s, but not actually. Harry's actually several hundred years old. Nia is well, I shouldn't go telling the lady's age, but no, she is much older than she looks, but not quite that old. Perhaps perhaps in her late 50s, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Could you explain what abilities Nia has to the audience?
Okay. Well, Nia is shadow-based abilities. Shadow-based. Well, she's stronger in shadow. Now, there's a difference between shadow and darkness. Darkness is just the absence of light. Shadow, you've got light being blocked by something causing shadow, and that's where her ability lies. So in shadow, she's stronger, and she can transport from one end of a shadow to another, like instantly. She uses occasionally to go under doors and stuff like that.
Can she create shadow?
No, that I wouldn't let her do that. That's the thing. It's like, but what she does is she has little light gems that I don't think they show up in this book, but they do the next one, that she will put up behind her on something. Then she just raises her cloak up over her to create shadow area. And of course, you can use normal shadow and stuff like that too.
Okay.
But, and she is technically a wizard, but I didn't want to have a zap pow pow wizard,
right.
She doesn't throw magic missiles or fireballs. She uses a lot of information gathering spells. Well, a lot of it comes up later on. She can summon. There's a shadow cat, hawk, and dog that have different. Like the dog can smell things. The hawk obviously has great, range of vision and range of,
right.
And the cat does what cats do, and she gets information from that. The cat's the easiest one for her to parse because it's closer to what she would experience. But yeah, that's information gathering. She can locate objects. If she's touched an object, she can find it again easily if it's within a certain range.
She has to touch it first, though, right?
Yeah, well, or have seen it anyway, so she knows exactly what it looks like. Let's find that object that kind of looks like a banana with wings. No, that doesn't really work. I don't know if you find anything like that anyway, but yeah. Harry's like the exact opposite. He's all light and heat abilities and stuff like that. I established early on he has basically, I'll call it laser vision because everybody else does. But it's not an ability he can use in combat because he has to focus very carefully on using it. If he tries to use laser vision in combat, it doesn't go well usually. But he's extremely strong. I think he could actually toss a Volkswagen if he had to.
Right.
And he can generate, say, heat and light like a miniature sun, and he heals extremely fast. But everybody heals extremely fast these days, but it used to be rare.
Right.
But that's I think that's pretty much. Oh, excuse me. He's also a shapeshifter.
But he can't use the heat and light in combat.
Well, he can glow and heat in combat, but it doesn't usually help much because it's an area effect, not a specific. So he could like just end up destroying the area.
Okay.
And the laser vision is terrible in combat. He has to be able to be stopped and focused to use it. And the form he is now is not his natural form. He just wants to be tall, blonde, and handsome. His natural form, as it comes up later in the book, is basically a bronze skin, hawk-headed humanoid, with the hawk-headed being human size,
right?
Not this little thing sitting on his neck. But that's this form's natural look. So it draws a lot of attention. And he doesn't really like it all that much. So,
what form does Nia have, by the way?
Nia is just an attractive woman. That is actually how she looks, and
okay,
it's like boring, but
right.
Like long dark hair, the usual. It's just like she plays the sexy babe stereotype to her advantage, because it tends to make guys underestimate her.
Okay.
Where it's funny because when she's by herself, she's completely different from what you would if she's talking to somebody in public, somebody she's trying to like get the goods on. But
how would their magic operate in All Worlds Awakening?
Okay, well, I tried not to be too ultra specific with magic and games, but basically everyone has every person has some supply of magic. At one point in the later book, I delineate them as SMUs,
SMUs.
Yeah, I actually forget the S stands for, something magical units.
Right.
But they tend to call them SMUs. Funny, I can't remember that one. It's like something some special magical units. No, it's like standard magical units. There.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a quantitative unit of power, and like a low-level spell might take one SMU to operate. The higher the power of the spell, the more magic you have to pump into it. And people generate magic in their own bodies, but magic is also an outside source. Magic flows through everything. It's like essentially in the all worlds, the infinite ocean, where a lot of the bubble worlds rest on. Magic comes from the infinite ocean, and you have to be able to tap that to use it.
Now, do people have, or demigods or Knights of Valor, have a limited amount of magic that can be exhausted and has to be recharged?
Yeah, they do. You don't, like with some like gods and you don't usually see it happening, but even the Valdurians, not in this book so much, in the second book, one of the characters exhausts himself, and it's just like I don't try to break it down to point values or anything silly like that. It's just like he used a lot of magic, so he's really, really tired now, and he can't do any more magic.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're getting into fantasy role-playing statistics, and even though a lot of these characters have come from that in some way, I don't want to get into that kind of thing for the books. I don't want to have them going like, well, this character has X number of power points and blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's fine if I'm doing parody. I mean, that would be okay, but I'd rather not do that. And I can't say these books are entirely serious, of course, either. But I mean, they tend
they're not parodies, right?
No. So they are serious stories with comedic moments. I guess I'd have to say some of the characters say funny things and do strange things occasionally, but it's certainly not like sitcom humor or anything like that. But yeah, there's certainly I intend there to be humor. Let's put it that way. It may not work for everybody.
But how does their magic work in the Always universe?
Okay, well, like most traditional things, the magic user has to know a spell. He has to be taught a spell to manifest the power a certain way. And in a lot of cases, you have to say words or phrases. In Nia's case, I do have her mumbling and chanting, but I never say what the mumbling and chanting is.
Right.
She has to focus on it to open, like, shadow gates or things, to bring.
Yeah, I was wondering if the Nia and Harry have to just exude magic, or whether they have to say spells. They have to say spells, right, before they use their magic.
For a spell, they would have to speak it, an actual spell.
Right.
A lot of their abilities are inherent. All of Harry's abilities are technically inherent. He just
Okay.
he's a magical engine, but it all goes to his strength, his flight, regeneration, the heat and light, all
Right.
that stuff. And he can't actually do spells. He literally cannot be taught. He can't learn spell. He could learn it, but it wouldn't work for him. Yeah. That comes up later in the book, actually. He cannot learn magic, but he's a magical engine, far stronger than as that goes.
Does Nia, to become a Knights of Valoron, as opposed to a Demi Knight, have to rise to Harry's level?
Well, not as far as that sort of thing goes. By the end of the first stories with her and Harry, she is promoted to knight just because she does her job and does it well.
Okay.
That's all you have to do. It's like you have to exhibit a certain level of confidence and competence to be a full knight. That's someone they can trust to just pull off on their own. So.
Okay. Now their first confrontation, first person they meet in confrontation wise, is Loki, right?
Right.
And could you explain a little bit of his backstory to Loki?
Well, there's 3 Lokis in the first story, or unless you want to count each one as a separate story. There's 3 separate missions with a Loki.
Okay.
I just liked Loki. I've always liked Loki as a character.
Yeah.
And just for the record, these stories were actually written before the Marvel movies came out, and now it's like everybody's using Loki. It seems like. No, I did a long time ago. I mean, I revised some later on.
You like the Norse mythology?
What's that?
You like the Norse mythology?
Oh, absolutely. It was my second favorite. Greco-Roman used to be my favorite, and I never missed a Jeopardy question on that.
Really?
Greco-Roman. I'm not as up on Norse mythology, but I'm better than I used to be. So I went by Loki was the son of a giant, at least in most stories, a Farbauti, and he got adopted by the Aesir, not as guardians. That's just a thing from the comics and the movies. And that's Stan Lee's stuff. So, yeah, it was the Aesir and the Vanir. Well, basically, Norse mythology, as they said, it's tribes conquering other tribes. So when you conquer one tribe, their gods become your demons, or they get sucked into your pantheon or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well, like Frey and Freyr of the Vanir were a competing tribe or whatever, and they became based honorary Aesir later on. And Loki just was adopted by, and which is where a lot of the problem is because in almost every bit of Norse mythology, Loki is the smartest of all the Norse gods.
Really?
Supposedly, yeah, Loki is, Odin is supposed to be the wisest, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's smart because, like, has all this wisdom, but like he doesn't know how to use it sometimes.
Yep.
It's really weird. But Loki would do things. He would. Well, I'll get that giant to rebuild the walls of Asgard and go for it. Yeah, man. And then when the giant's starting to finish it, well, we promised him Freya if he did that. You got to stop him. It's all your fault. Well, you thought it was a good idea at the time. This is how his whole life. This is why he turned on them at the end. I think basically in Ragnarok, it was like he was basically the nerd in a room full of jocks, and that's how. Also, Loki used to be a sun god in the old stories.
That's an interesting take on it, by the way.
Yeah, it's like I've seen it. At one point, Loki stole Freya's falcon cloak, and Loki was also originally a god of fire. Gee, what's a fire flying through the sky? Oh, he's a sun god originally.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. And the falcon cloak comes up in the second set. The first one is with Loki as an. These are all Lokis after Ragnarok. It's like because if anyone was going to escape the destruction of Ragnarok, it would be Loki.
Right.
He would boogie out of there. And so there's a lot of them. In fact, one of the Lokis later makes a reference to the League of Lokis, which was just a joke. I never. Particularly, but I haven't talked to the League of Lokis for a while. But they all tend to go off in their own worlds and other worlds and. Get along as best they can. They're not usually looking to be worshipped again, but like the Loki in the first part, Logan Farber became an actor. Well, perfect for him. It's like if Loki was always an actor, and that's where the first story starts out. The second Loki is more like the traditional supervillain type of Loki trying to conquer the world.
Right.
And then the third Loki. So, and by the way, the reason they're checking out is because these are gods not in their own original worlds, so they fall under the directives there. They want to make sure they're not causing trouble. And the second Loki was causing a lot of trouble, so he had to go down. That was actually pretty much almost a superhero slugfest at one point. I think they had a couple. There was, in fact, it was a world of superheroes, so the one was helping them. And the third one is I don't know, should I give this away? This Loki had a special connection to Nia, actually.
No, don't give it away yet, because we'll get into further interviews. But a lot of people might have a problem with the sexual stereotypes of Harry and Nia, right? Portrayed as a noir detective and a buxom blonde, or buxom brunette, actually.
Yeah.
But explain how that's not really relevant to the plot. In fact, it's counterproductive reasoning, right?
Right. Well, that's, like I said, first of all, Harry's a shapeshifter.
Right.
He also lacks a lot of confidence. So he took a form of the kind of guys he's seen in movie. You know, it's like could be any generic big blonde actor guy. I'm not sure if it comes out in this one entirely, but Harry does not have a lot of confidence, actually. And he acts like he does, but he really doesn't. And this is one of his means of boosting his own confidence. You know, as long as he appears as a hero, he's better. And Nia, although that's more or less her actual appearance, she obviously does it up to the hill. She does that for a couple of reasons. For one, almost guys see as that, and some parts of their brain turn off and other parts turn on. And that's all they think about. They don't think of her as someone dangerous and competent, you know, that you have to watch out for. It's like, the gangster's Mao, or, you know, the buxom assistant or something like that. When actually she's probably the most dangerous of the two, not necessarily in a fight, but overall. Yeah, she uses the whole thing to her advantage. You know, the whole sex thing or whatever. And she isn't really that way, but it's come to be something that's like, well, I have to do this, you know, in order to accomplish such a goal.
Right.
And so in the actual Nia, I mean, it's just like hard. I mean, what you see in the book is pretty much her, but there's all kinds of hers, so to speak, throughout the book, I think, really. But she's the calm and sensible one of the two. Harry's more fly off the handle and less likely to think things through. So of the two, she is the smarter and really the center of the group. And honestly, I think I would consider Nia my main character out of all of them. I
was going to ask you that, but now tell us a little bit about the second confrontation, the setup that went into it.
With the Loki one or the Hotel Cosmofair?
Hotel Cosmofair.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they've done a lot of stuff, and they've basically been sent on vacation because the oracles of Valor know there's something coming up. They want other people to be fit as a fiddle. What they didn't see is that there's stuff going on at the Hotel Cosmofair too. So they get there, and I originally designed it as almost, you could call it like a hub world for the all worlds, where people from everywhere can show up, because the Mackelweiser family of gnomes has a great establishment. You can get anything you want there pretty much, and any sort of entertainment. We're not going to go into what kind of entertainment. It's like you can get almost anything there, and if you can't have a good time there, you're not trying very hard. But when they get there, it's new. It's not the original Hotel Cosmofair. That was destroyed like a couple hundred years ago, I think. And they rebuilt it, or at least recreated it anyway. And they try to, and there's a problem going on. There have been people going comatose, you know, and they don't know why. And the system, their holographic entertainment system has failed, which it never did. Of course, it's also new. They could be it could be shakedown cruise. And so it ends up Harry and Nia being detectives, supposedly, trying to help them figure out what's going on and, you know, save their vacation, I guess, if nothing else.
All right, that's enough for today. We'll say the next explanation for the next interview. But I can't wait to get into the further adventures of All Worlds Awakening, honestly. because the characters are interesting. The plot is fantastic. And you can buy his book, All Worlds Awakening. It's available through Amazon. And his publisher is whitecappublications.com. And how do people get a hold of you on Facebook?
On Facebook, I'm just typing in my name. I'm assuming Joel Roosa would probably get it there. And same on Twitter. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Right.
Or I'm I had a hard time finding myself for a second. It was like Joel Roosa or at Joel Roosa will get you my homepage.
And you're contemplating doing a website also, right?
Yes.
All right. Yes. All right. Well, good. Till the next interview, I wish you a good day.
Right.
And have a nice weekend, Joel.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.